What's up, everybody? Welcome to another awesome passive income video. Today we're going to break down print on demand. What platform should you use? Should you use platforms like Redbubble? Should you use platforms like Shopify? Should you use a platform like Wix? We're going to break it down. Now, this is going to be obviously a general video because it's hard to get really granular when you're talking about three different large platforms like this. And we're going to talk about different concepts. That's going to be the important part, the concepts of this video, okay? So when you're talking about print on demand, there's different aspects to print on demand. You have an area of print on demand where most of the heavy lifting is done for you. But in that same notion that most of the heavy lifting is done for you, you also get, you have to pay the price of that some way, somehow. And that usually typically tends to happen by getting smaller profit margins for each product that you sell. And then you have another aspect of print on demand, such as, Shopify, Wix, things like that, where these are different platforms that are used for just typical businesses and typical stores, but you have to do more heavy lifting, and that comes with a potential for more profits. Just depends on how you set it up. Now, the biggest difference from a heavy lifting perspective is Redbubble and all these other platforms that essentially do the print on demand. They're typically going to bring in traffic for you. So if you create a Redbubble store, if you create a TeePublic store, if you're on Merch by Amazon, all these different platforms, the biggest benefit out of all these platforms is that they can get you closer to the customers faster. That's the biggest benefit. Of course, there are benefits like, having your design printed on a specific product, having it packaged, having it fulfilled, sent out, make sure it's delivered to the customer, and you don't have to worry about, returns and things like that, which is another huge benefit. But realize that that's going to eat in your cost per product. Now, for me personally, I engage in both of these. I actually sold two print-on-demand stores that are off these platforms, like the Redbubbles, the TeePublics, Merch by Amazon, things like that, Society6. And what I learned is that you will have to do the majority of the heavy lifting when it comes to these platforms, but the profit looks completely different. I'll explain what I mean. So when you're on platforms like Wix, when you're on platforms like Shopify, the thing is first you get, kind of depending on what programs you sign up with. For example, you have Printful, Printify. You have different platforms like this that can do print on demand for you. They come with different products that can be fulfilled for you. And there's definitely more responsibility on your shoulders to make sure that the product arrives to the consumer. Now, there are some really, really trusted companies out there that are, essentially merch fulfillers, that are really good companies. For example, and I just mentioned one of their names, Printful is one of those really awesome companies. You can create a hoodie, you can create a t-shirt, you can create a scarf, you can create really whatever you want on their platform, and then sync the app to your store so that anytime you get a sale, it heads back into Printful's dashboard, and you could fulfill all the orders through Printful, and then when a product is shipped, it's automatically added as a tracking number, etc., and gets sent to the consumer. Now, once again, there's more things you're going to have to worry about. You're going to have to worry about refunds. You're going to have to worry about consumers getting their orders. You're going to have to worry about dealing with customer service on these platforms. But like I said, the money looks different. Now, let's talk about the other difference where it comes to using a platform like Shopify or Wix. Well, you get more freedom with designing your website. As you guys know, with Redbubble, there's not much too much designing that goes on when it comes down creating your store, right? You upload your designs, maybe you organize them in different categories, add some different tags, and you kind of set it up that way. But with Shopify, with Wix, let's take Shopify first. You have what's called Shopify Themes, and there are free themes and there are paid themes. And these themes kind of arrange the way your store looks. You can get custom-made themes. You can have a developer work on your website. There's a lot of different things that you could do with Shopify. You can even add some apps where they're like drag-and-drop page builder apps on Shopify that can kind of edit the design of your website, right? Like I said, we're just exposing the surface here when we talk about this video. We would really need to make step-by-step tutorials to show every aspect of this, right? For Wix, it's a little bit different. It's not like there are paid themes and there are free themes. All the designs on Wix are website templates, if you will. And the cool thing about these website templates is they're all free, every single one of them. And the thing about these website templates is that, and that's different than Shopify themes, is that the functionality is different. So on Shopify, if you get a free Shopify theme, although it might be designed well and it might be quick, it's going to have less functionality than a premium theme, at least most of the time. Now, not all themes are created equal, and I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Not all Shopify themes are created equal. There's some themes where you'll pay $200 for them, and they're just as good as a free theme. But then there are some themes that might be a little cheaper, $100, maybe they're even more expensive, $500, but they have more functionality than a regular free theme. Does that make sense? So it's kind of, I don't want to say it's the Wild West, but there's a lot more choice there. There's a lot more freedom there. And with freedom, we all know, comes the ultimate responsibility of choosing what's right or wrong for you. With Wix, it's a little different. All the themes, all the different templates that you get to your website, they pretty much, and I'm saying pretty much because they pretty much all have the same functionality. Where the functionality kind of differs depends on what plan that you select and the different applications that you pay, okay? Now, there's some obvious benefits of going with a Wix versus a Shopify, and there's some obvious benefits that go with a Shopify versus a Wix. So let's talk about Wix. The cool thing that I really love about Wix is that there's no regulation as to how you want to design your website. Meaning, if I want to move a button a certain place in the banner, or if I want to drag and drop the heading a certain area on the page, I can do that. With Shopify, I can't necessarily do that completely free unless I have a drag and drop app builder, which is actually relatively new on Shopify. Back in, let's say, 2016, these drag and drop page builders didn't actually exist. There's a recent update made to Shopify, which is Shopify 2.0, which has just improved speed and, different features like that really help the platform as a whole. But before then, there really weren't too many features like that. Now, you can make the argument that, you can get a Shopify app builder, right? A drag and drop website builder. The thing is these builders are a little on the pricey side. You could end up paying $50 to $60 a month for these apps, aside from the actual Shopify subscription, okay? Now, a lot of times when it comes down to the marketing, Shopify is marketed as like the best e-commerce platform, and that's not necessarily true. We live in a time now in 2022 where Shopify as an e-commerce platform is just as good as a Wix, and Wix is just as good as Shopify, in my opinion. Some people are going to argue that. Some people are going to say, no, you're totally wrong. But I think it just comes down to opinion, because every functionality that Shopify can do, for the most part, Wix can do as well. Through apps, through paid features, through all different, kind of things like that. So in terms of that, you're kind of looking at a different scale. Now, with Redbubble, and all these other platforms, TeePublic, Merch by Amazon, like I said, you're not owning your own website. And this is where one of the next biggest arguments come into when it comes down to owning your own shop, owning your own website, your own store, is that on Redbubble, you're not even an employee. You're just not even a contractor, honestly. You're just somebody who works for free until somebody decides to want to buy. All the designs here, even though they're your designs and you created them, you really don't own them. Redbubble owns them. And what I mean by owns them, they could delete you off the platform any day. They could delete your designs off the platform any day. And you have no say in it. They don't even owe you an explanation. Now, is there something wrong with that? The answer is no. I'm not here to complain about that. I think Redbubble is doing a service to the world. And I think they deserve the profits that they're making as a business because of how low they leave the barrier to entry. Everybody can join, right? The only thing I would say about Redbubble is you have to understand that by nature, since you do not own the platform, you have to realize the potential risk that you're entering when you add all your work on a platform like this, right? There are many stories where I hear people say they deleted my account for no reason. It happens, right? And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not saying that they're right. All I'm saying is that exists. So if you're going to run a Redbubble account or, Merch by Amazon account or a TeePublic account or a Society6 account or any of these other kind of print-on-demand platforms that you're going to join, to sell different things, you have to realize that that's always a potential end result to your business, right? So putting all your eggs in one basket is something that you just shouldn't go with, whether it depends, either platform you use. Now, a lot of people think that Shopify or Wix can't close down your account, and that's not completely true either. And I've never really seen Shopify close somebody's account down, but what I have seen them do is not allow them to transact on their platform. So the payment methods that you use to transact with your consumers could be limited, right? So there's different ways that can happen, but in general, just keep in mind that they all do, on some level, have some rules and some regulations to what you can sell. For example, if I try to sell bullets or guns on using Shopify, my account's probably going to be taken down. It's not going to be allowed to, it's not going to be allowed to happen. Now, like I said, I haven't seen somebody's account being taken down, but they can very easily, and every Shopify store goes through this, where they have to see if the account is being monitored. They have to see, what's the information behind the seller. And they monitor the store. They check, if initially, before you publish your store and you actually go live, the credit card processing system or whatever payment processing system you're using, especially if it's the Shopify one, they check your website before it goes, not before it goes live, but essentially before you transact, right? So there's always parts of the game. And if they feel like they need more information on your store and more data, they're going to ask you. Now, the thing is to realize is that, once again, there's more responsibility on your shoulders when you use a print-on-demand platform like this, like Wix or Shopify or something like that. And the reason why there's more responsibility is you're going to have to handle aspects of that customer journey that you wouldn't have otherwise with a Redbubble. For example, returns. We haven't even talked about this, but a lot of people have the common question, what do you do when somebody wants to return something on Shopify? What do you do when something wants to be returned on Wix, right? Well, obviously, it depends on your customer refund policy, right? That's a huge thing. But in general, you're going to have to eat up those costs. With Redbubble, you don't have to eat up any costs. Of course, if a consumer decides not to buy a product or wants to cancel an order, you're not going to be losing money out of your bank account. Obviously, you're not going to get the sale of the product, even though it said you got the sale. You're not going to lose money in that sense, where they're not going to take money out of your bank account. But for sure, you're definitely not going to gain money, okay? So there are costs and benefits to each of these platforms. I want to be clear that no platform is better than the other. All you have to realize is that one platform might make it easier to use, and because it's easier, there is always a price to pay. All right, guys? So this is just a simple video. In the future, as 2020 goes on, I do plan on creating some step-by-step website design tutorials for creating print-on-demand stores, whether it be through Wix, whether it be through Shopify, and who knows, we might even analyze new platforms that are alternatives to Redbubble, alternatives to Wix, alternatives to Shopify. There's a lot of alternatives to these two platforms here, Shopify and Wix, that we haven't talked about, that maybe I don't even know about yet. And that's why I'm going to do more research on the topic. When I personally built my two websites, one of them was using WordPress. This was back in the day. And another one was used with Shopify. And the first one I had sold for about $600 after getting literally 2 sales, and I felt like I didn't want to do it anymore. The second one was a little bit larger of a figure. Maybe I'll share that one day, that information one day. But that was on it was a little while ago, I would say a few years ago, but definitely I could share that story one day in the future. And it was a good run while it lasted. I definitely enjoyed the process. And I was actually gonna buy a store recently. It was like underserved. It was a Shopify print on demand store, and I figured I could do a series out of it where I show it, me growing it. But honestly, I don't want to get into a whole business just to do a documentation series on it, because there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes that might not necessarily be on camera, and it could kind of get iffy there. So I don't want to make any commitments to anything that I know I'm not going to do yet, and I want to see where this kind of road takes us. But like I said, hopefully we'll be creating some guides, some tutorials in the future, and we'll definitely do some research on that. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out. Bye.